I think we've all been speculating and waiting for Giannis to ask out of Milwaukee since he's become a star, right? Let's be honest. It was like, well, he's probably not going to want to stay in Milwaukee. Not only is it a small market, but snow and, can they build a contender around him? And to the Bucks' credit, they've prolonged this process with that championship. And really, it was Giannis that got it done, right? But it looks like we finally reached that point. 48 hours ago, it was reported that this summer, Giannis only wanted to go to the Knicks. I find that interesting. I don't know. He likes the big city. He likes the nightlife. I don't know. But the problem is the Knicks, you remember that Mikal Bridges trade? 5 of them, thanks. 5 first-round picks in that trade. So their draft capital is gone, right? It's completely gone. So that definitely would handicap the negotiations. And then it got me to thinking because this Kawhi aspiration scandal, right? And Pablo Torre. And it just keeps getting deeper and deeper. The layers of, it's a deeper, darker criminal link. No, but Pablo in this process mentioned like, hey, the Knicks are next. I'm going to look into New York next because Jalen Brunson took the biggest discount a superstar has ever taken that we've ever seen. It was like, oh, how generous of you, Jalen, right? Mikal Bridges took a discount on his latest contract extension. And it just makes you wonder if there was a similar type of negotiation with these Knicks taking these huge discounts. And does that perhaps handcuff the Knicks deals behind the scenes? Not only do they not have draft capital, but perhaps there are some other deals going on that, kind of bound them to this core. Hey, it is what it is. New York's, it's good for the NBA that the Knicks are good, but it's something that crossed my mind. And so now I think Giannis has realized, all right, the Knicks are not a possibility, but I want out of here. It's time. So I have to open up the possibilities to other contenders. I want to be on a contending championship team. The other thing that I think signals that this is actually going to happen this season is his family has moved back to Athens, Greece. You can take it or leave it for whatever, but he's a family guy. He's got 4 kids. Him and his wife, you can tell they're very close. Like, that's kind of like, okay, the family's up out of Milwaukee. And so finally, 4 or 5 years of this speculation, it looks like the Giannis trade request or move is going to happen in this NBA year. So you look at the other contenders around the league. Miami's involved. They're always involved. And that's the latest rumblings was Miami had a great offer on the table without Bam Adebayo. And I think the issue with Miami right now is Milwaukee will only accept Bam back, but then that strips Miami of being a contender. So they're kind of stuck in that spot, right? OKC, they could throw a king's ransom at Milwaukee if they wanted to. They definitely could. I think you have to question, though, like, one, that's not really how Sam Presti moves. We know he's a strength in numbers, depth guy. He wants to hold on to the assets, manage the cap. And so why would you break up a super young championship core for Giannis? I mean, you could, but, I don't think that that's likely. I think the most realistic team that you circle is the San Antonio Spurs. Wemby's coming. You see the highlights. You see the footage. We all see it coming so long as he stays available and on the court. They actually have the draft capital, the young players, I think, to make it work. And then you say, okay, Giannis, you're going to one of the best run organizations in the NBA with just a history, warmer weather, better taxes, and the next greatest player in the league in Wembanyama. So I think that San Antonio, if I were right now to put odds on where he'd go, I think that they have the best odds. I don't think OKC would pull the trigger on blowing up that young core. Miami doesn't have enough. Who else is there? I'm sure there's a team that I'm forgetting, and someone's a fan of a team, and they're like, well, what about us? Like, we could, Detroit could throw in, Dern. And no, I don't know. But those are the teams that came up, and then you ask, all right, well, what would a Warriors deal look like? We know Lacob has been infatuated with Giannis. Steph and him have a relationship. And I think it would look like Jimmy Butler, Kuminga, 3 first-round picks, for Giannis and Kyle Kuzma. From Milwaukee's side of things, you say, okay, you get Jimmy Butler, who has owned them in that building for, half a decade. So I'm sure they have high thoughts on him for the right now, because they went and got Miles Turner. They can't bottom out. They don't want to bottom out yet per se. So you get Jimmy to stay relevant right now. You get the young potential star in Jonathan Kuminga, who, is no one is Giannis, but it's like hey, here's a super athlete that's going to be fun to watch grow and develop. And then you get the draft capital, assuming one or two of those picks is probably post-Steph. So that's intriguing, as well as you get to dump Kuzma's bad contract on the Warriors. And then it goes without saying what the Warriors get. I mean, as fun as the Jimmy Butler experience has been, I don't think anybody would be upset about trading him for Giannis. I know the Kuminga camp might be mad and say, hey, you can't give up Kuminga for now. I'm messing with you, right? But you got Steph, Draymond, Giannis. Kuzma is a bad contract. You could perhaps rehabilitate him in the system and being back on the West Coast. But I think that's what the deal would look like now that Kuminga in I think, January 15th that he could be traded. But now that he's on a decent contract that can be traded anywhere, right? But, the reality is as frustrating as this Warriors offseason has been in some of the moves, Mike Dunleavy has put the Warriors in a situation to pounce. Like, they're right where they need to be. They go out and get Steph, a true number 2 in Jimmy Butler. They somehow bob and weave through this Kuminga contract situation to where now he's on a reasonable deal that can be traded. Oh, yeah, and they've kept all their draft capital. And so, Giannis, probably not likely, but it looks like he is actually going to get moved. Maybe not to the Warriors, but it looks like it's actually going to finally happen. Giannis may not be, realistic. You know who might be, though? Another name that we've been talking about for, maybe 2 seasons now. One, Lauri Markkanen. I didn't do that right. I didn't do that accent right. Lauri, big Lauri. He killed Euro Cup. He was averaging like 40. And, it's certainly not going to cost as much as Giannis. And Utah is in tank mode still. Ainge, and is it his son now? They're aggressive. They're doing some weird things, but it's been reported in the last 24 hours that Lauri is back on the trade market. And so, I go back to the point of where the Warriors sit. They have to be feeling pretty good. I feel pretty good as a fan, like, okay, I like what we have, but we also have flexibility as the market opens up. But yeah, that's the latest. Giannis, it looks like it's finally going to happen. I say San Antonio. I don't really like how Giannis has moved with this. He has been, he seems like he's just full of shit when he talks. It is what it is. It's not so much what you say to the media as much as who you are day to day in the building and the people that know you. I've said this before. So I'm not saying he's like a phony to those that he knows, but the kind of the public statements and the handling with the Bucks, I could see where the Bucks would be frustrated with his lack of transparency and just his finickiness on the situation. But it looks like it's going to happen. The Warriors are they in Portland tonight against what's the kid's name? Yang Hansen, big Chinese kid. He looks legit. I watched him in summer league. Really good high post passer, has a swagger to him. Giant body, so I'm curious to see him, as well as, the second unit guys, Quentin Post, Kuminga combo, some more Will Richard, right? And then you got W Finals Game 3 back here in Phoenix, where I fully expect the Mercury to get the job done tonight. I do. It's been close. I thought they could have stole one of those first games in Las Vegas, but what I will say is if they're not going to allow the Mercury to be physical with Asia, it's probably a wrap. And the 4-time MVP will have her 3rd title, because in the Indiana series, and I thought it was over the top. I thought they let Aaliyah Boston get away with too much physicality on Asia. But now they're not letting AT and the Suns players get away with any. And she's catching it with 2 feet in the paint. And I think that's been, really the difference, the foul trouble in the refereeing. But I expect a big home court advantage in Phoenix, maybe a more even whistle, and the Mercury to get it done tonight. Patron, I'll have the breakdown of the Blazers preseason game tomorrow, as well as every Warriors game this season. Hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.